Now for the brand new 2008 ZX-10. Very different bike, certainly cosmetically, and looks totally different. In terms of the forks, we have preload, rebound, and compression, and in the shock, we have high and low speed compression, preload and rebound. Now with this shock, when you buy it on the showroom floor, there's a spacer between the shock and the frame already installed. So if you buy it, know that that is already there, that if you want to pick the back of the bike up, you're going to have to machine or create a bigger spacer to pick the back of the bike up based on the tires that you use. So be aware of that. And again, if you want to get ride height, you're going to have to go to a aftermarket shock that gives you that flexibility. On with Dave at 180 pounds. Now we pre-measured this bike, as we do with all of them. There's 10 millimeters of free sag in the back. So that leads me to believe that the back of this bike is going to be a little soft. Well, with Dave on the bike, it's already at 38 millimeters. So for a 1000cc bike, that's a little soft in the back. Let's check the front. And the front, there's basically only ½ inch of sag, which was put as about 15 millimeters. So we have somewhat of a typical Kawasaki mismatch here. A very, very soft rear spring by comparison to the fork springs. So if you're in this weight category, both springs should be changed to get a match set for the forks and the shock. Now, the other bad part about this is the shock spring is really soft, so as you get on the gas, the back of the bike is going to collapse. Great for wheelies, but not necessarily great for handling in the twisties. So bear that in mind. On with Chris. Now, we saw with Dave that the back of the bike was really soft. Now with Chris at 240 pounds, we're at 43 millimeters of sag in the back. Now we're into the same problem that really we can't measure the back, measure the front of the bike for sag because the back of the bike is completely collapsed and what we would call chop it out. So it's extending the front forks. Let's see if that's true. Exactly the same measurement as Dave had on it, just over ½ inch or 15 to 18 millimeters. So the back of the bike has to be corrected. The heavier you are, 240, that's completely unusable sag, so that spring's got to go. Once that spring is gone though, if you're over 240, go ahead, reassess the front, remeasure it and see what you get. On to Lisa. So now at 140 pounds. Lisa in the back is 23 millimeters. So with knowing that this shock spring is pretty soft, we can adjust the sag in the back of the bike will work if you're 140 pounds or less. So I'd probably say 110 to 150 will be about the target range for this shock spring. And in the front forks, 8 millimeters of sag, which basically means the forks don't work. So if Chris can pan back a little bit and Lisa sits up and down on the seat, you'll see that the front forks don't move. It pivots on the steering head. That's how stiff this front end is. So without question, you've got to have to do something with this bike. If you're 150 pounds or less, get the springs changed immediately and get the bike set and balanced with preload. Because right now, if you ride this bike, all it's going to do is squat in the back and take the front wheel off the ground. And if you're in a downhill off-camber turn, you have no traction in the front wheel unless you deliberately shut the throttle and load the front. So that's a pretty dangerous situation to be in, so be aware of that.